So tonight I want to introduce Melinda. Melinda Hudgens-Noblet is the famous co-host of the Lipstick Economy podcast, and she has a day job with Assurian that she'll be able to tell you about too. And so what we're going to do tonight is maybe go through a little information that we think will be interesting to you about what we've learned, because when COVID happened, we had just started our podcast. And we said, well, should we stop? And we said, no, this is the only thing that keeps us sane. So we kept on going. And so there are several people in the audience tonight who've been part of our podcast. And so we're very thankful for that. So, Melinda, let's get started.
It's been a while since I was talking in front of a group of people in person, not on Zoom. So I have pants on today, which is really great, as do most of you. Thank you for
high heels and lipstick, right? So has anybody here not been affected by COVID? The one person at the back. So our lives have changed, and so what we wanted to talk about a little bit tonight was about how as marketers that's affected us, and some of the things that we think we should be looking for before we introduce our fabulous speakers who we're so grateful for tonight. But I want to just at first just kind of go through a few things with you. And you know, it always takes a minute to make sure the clicker is working. So, you know me, Jamie Dunham, and this is Melinda. And then we are pleased to have Christy Haynes-Pruitt with us tonight, and she's going to be introducing our guest. And she has a consulting firm that helps people navigate careers, and she also has a speakers bureau. So if you're interested in that, I think she's the person for you to reach out to. Just a few things. We have fabulous sponsors, so let's just say yay to sponsor. We love our friends from Studio Bank and from Nashville Post, and most importantly from our folks from NAMAM who are hosting us tonight. So for some of you, you may not have been here before, but is this not a fabulous facility? It is just wonderful. And we're so proud for Nashville to be able to have it, and we're so excited to hear from Wish tonight about all the great success that they've had in opening it. Just a few ads for our sponsors. We are here in a partnership with NAMAM. They have a group called Women in Harmony, and it is an awesome group. They have events. Where's Wish? How often do you have events? I think they have them every month or two. So just look for those. They are great. Most of them have been online, but they're excellent. And so, again, it's all about raising up women in different industries. The Studio Bank has a women's collective, and it's an awesome experience as well. They have regular meetings with speakers. I know there's probably some people here in this room who've actually spoken. They have an event coming up. It'll be their first live event in a while. Rita's shaking her head. You know what I'm talking about, right? So you need to be looking into that. And then the Post has their Most Powerful Women event that's coming up in September. They do lots of wonderful events, and we're so happy to be partners with them, and they've been so gracious to us over the years. But this is another group that is really important, and this event, Most Powerful Women, is an awesome experience. So I hope that you find it online and sign up for it. And then all of these other people have helped us. We couldn't do this without our friends who have helped us. People like Relationary Marketing who helped and hosted all of our workshops today. Folks that have helped put things in our goodie bags, and people who have volunteered, and just all kinds of people who have been so kind to us. So I hope if you see their name, and if you haven't figured out how to get to the program tonight, it's on the program you were handed. What you have to do is scan that QR code, and you will see bios on all the people that are there. We had workshops today. My gosh, they were awesome. What did you think?
Absolutely, they were. I hope you all had a chance to dial in and watch that via Zoom. We had some folks, I think there was some confusion. They showed up in person, and we were like, we love you, but you have to come back for the in-person event tonight. But they were fabulous.
So we don't know where the world's going to take us. We had a great conversation with Jennifer Traisner, Jazuski from Nashville Post, and Perry DeGard Owens and Courtney Rogers today about the future of events and what event marketing looks like. And everybody's kind of in the same world we are right now. We don't know exactly where things are going, but probably most events are going to be hybrid going forward. So we stepped out and tried to do that today so we could model that for you. This is the QR code for your program. So if you have it, it's down in the corner. You take your phone out, you open your camera, and boom, you have it. It couldn't be easier. And so there's lots of good information on there, as well as you can scan for your virtual business card. Yes, yay. Right? That virtual business card is a very cool thing. Somebody told me tonight they had known about these in the past, but that ours actually worked, and it was very cool. So,
thank you, Richard.
So Richard Graves over there and the team from TAPS, they every year help us. I have to tell you, so I'm just going to do a little plug because I'm on a mission to tell people about progressive web apps. So we're a bunch of marketers, and we know that if you talk about apps, you usually say, oh my God, they cost a lot of money and they never work the way we want to, and nobody keeps the content up on them, right? So Richard has a solution for that. It's called a progressive web app that does not go through the App Store. It has a content management system. And my friends from NHC are able to tell you about that. We have one app that 150,000 people use on a regular basis. Yeah. So anyway, I just want you to know that having a virtual business card seems very COVID compliant these days, doesn't it?
Sure does.
So we're here tonight to talk about culture shock because the one or two of you who haven't been impacted from COVID didn't live in my house. We have all been, it seems like, impacted one way or the other. Some people were not working. Other people were working, from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. We've had some awesome stories to tell about what's going on. But how has it affected us as marketers is really what we're here to talk about tonight. So this is kind of funny. This was a slide that we used in 2019. We were talking about the women's vote. The next year we were going to celebrate, woohoo, the women's vote, right? And then bam, pandemic. But we did do a podcast about it, didn't we?
We did do a podcast about it, yes. And we celebrated.
Yeah, and we celebrated. We did. We went downtown and we celebrated. But get this. At that time, we were saying it was going to be 100 years until women had equality, full equality. And then the pandemic happens, and now the projections are 135 years. What's up? Whoa, I know. So that's important to us when we talk about marketing to women. So these are just some of the facts. Everybody knows this, but I thought it was good to just talk about it for a minute. Schooling, oh my gosh, if you're a woman, and that's a lot of the reason that women have dropped out of the workforce, and it's in all across all jobs. We're not just talking about people who work in restaurants and places like that. There's a gap in leadership that's going on now. There's a gap in technology because there are 1.8 million women who dropped out of the workforce because of the requirements of their home and their family to be able to do that. And I think that one of the things that stands out to me out of all of this information is the fact that remote workers may actually fall behind in all of this. So I wanted Melinda to tell you about some of the things that they're doing, because the problem about a remote workforce is you may not be seen as often, right, to your employers. And the other thing is you may not be up for a promotion because you may not be talking to people, or you may not have the same water cooler conversations that you've had before. It just presents a whole nother set of issues around that topic that we never would have thought about before that. So talk a little bit about Asurian and what you're doing.
Sure. So this is an incredible topic. I think one note I do want to make is that folks who were remote before, so pre-pandemic, when the rest of sort of the workforce was in the office, I think they were truly at a disadvantage, because you're absolutely right. They didn't have those, pop by your desk, they didn't have the water cooler conversations. And when we all went remote, that sort of changed everything, right? We didn't know. I saw some of my teammates a couple of months ago, and we've had babies since then. We've gotten married, we've gotten divorced, we've had miscarriages, we've lost family members. There is so much that has taken place, right? And what was really interesting to me is that we were all in the same boat at that point. It wasn't that, this half of the room is in person, and so they were, abreast of what was going on, and this half of the room wasn't, right? And so when the pandemic hit, everyone, we talk about the pivot word, but truly everyone had to. And thankfully, at Asurian, we were all sent home to work from home. At that time, I didn't have any little ones. I do have a little one now. So I feel for all you moms who are out there, dealing with the virtual schooling and, and the mothering and the wifing and all of the things. What we tried to do was really encourage our ERGs, our employee resource groups. They stepped up truly, almost to the point of over-indexing, where they were offering tons of programming. And they really ran the gamut from, here's some financial workshops. Let's talk about if your income has been reduced because of the pandemic. Here's how to think through that process. Here's how to build a brand, your personal brand, in a virtual space. What does that look like? But also some really fun things where we encouraged families to participate. There were cooking demonstrations. So in advance of the event, we would send out a grocery shopping list, right, to say, here are the ingredients you're going to need for this themed meal we're going to cook. And then would invite a chef to kind of do that virtually, all the way to astronaut Scott Kelly came. I say he came, but virtually he was present, just talking about kind of how to deal with change, how to roll with the punches, sort of. And we invited our employees' children to ask him questions. And that was really cool, right? We wanted this to be a truly inclusive. But I'll say the one thing that was really beneficial was partnering with an organization called LIRA. And so each employee and anyone living in their household has access to 16 sessions with a counselor or a therapist. And that, I'll say, that program was planned for 2019 or 2020, and then there was a certain budget allocated to that, and we sort of went above and beyond that because we recognized, our employees, they leaned into that, and they were grateful, and I think that was a saving grace.
Yeah. So much to think about, things that weren't even on our radar in 2019. So how do you still see women, right? Women at home working remotely, when many women are choosing that because of their family situation and their need to work from home. So I think it's something that we all have to be much more mindful of as we look at our employees and how that happens. Because I do believe that as women, we empower other women and we lift other women up. And that's kind of what we hope that by shedding some light on information, not only to make us better marketers, but maybe better human beings.
And to know you're not alone in the struggles, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what we wanted to talk about is some of the things that we learned in our podcast. And we've done 36 episodes, so this is a shameless plug for our podcast, Lipstick Economy. And Lipstick Economy is about the 100 million women, which includes every one of us here that make all the buying decisions, all the consumer buying decisions, 85% of them. If we were a country, we'd be the largest country in the world in terms of buying power. So that's what we do, and we're experts at it. But as we looked across the spectrum, we thought there were some very interesting things that we just learned about marketing in general. The first one is Both the old and the new works. This is a mural that was done by muralist Kim Radford, and we did a podcast with her. And so you're seeing murals all over town, right? The Tennessee Titans, we did a podcast with Jennifer Hinkle, and we talked about the mural that the Titans did that was interactive. So really and truly, it's finding unusual and different ways. And my friend Amy Thomas is sitting back there, and you have a mural where? It looks like a Franklin postcard. So if you're going down Hillsborough Road, that's hers. So honk at them. Or better yet, go in if you need some medical. Yeah, take a picture and post it, right? So what we've learned through all of this is some of the old things like email. But there are also old things that become new again. And so we like to say that what has happened with, TV and all the streaming channels and podcasts, all those kinds of things that are new, but they're really versions of old things. So for those of us who've been around for a while, it gives me heart because it helps me understand what these new things are. So my friends from NHC are here, and in the heart of the pandemic, it was chaos because any of you that had a family member that was in a senior center were desperate for information about them and desperate for what was going on at that time. So through an email program we created and dashboards and different ways to communicate on their website, we were able to give information to these families. But I have to tell you, the most fun thing is we said, oh, we can do a podcast. So in the heart of the pandemic, it was like the worst time where the news stories were so terrible on the national networks. It was incredible. We did a podcast with a physician, one of their physicians who was in the heat of the moment of what was going on. So we posted it, and overnight we had over 1,000 people listen to it. And so it's not, we think about like Crime Junkies and all those great podcasts that we listen to, but there's a real place for podcasts to provide information to people in a very different way than it has before. So that's just one story of things that are going on, but it's really interesting to see how you can look at things in a little different light and bring to the table some new things.
I think you pointed out, too, 73% of consumers still prefer to receive email marketing. And knowing that based on the Facebook algorithms, your ad is less likely to appear on Facebook than it is to be interacted with in an email.
Yeah. So relationships. I keep looking back because I don't have notes, but... But just like we've partnered with the museum here tonight, partnerships and collaborations can take you so much farther than you can do alone. In fact, one of our presentations tonight is going to be about that very subject, where we talk about Sheerhaven and the YW and Barbicide. So I think it's really interesting that advertising dollars are not always where it's at. It's looking for those opportunities to partner with people and do things. And I know our folks from Uncle Nearest, they've done a good bit of that too, so Kate will be telling us a little bit about that. But talk about Goo Goo a little bit.
Yeah, so we were thrilled to have Beth Sachon from Google Clusters, and she talked about exactly that how she landed her role based on just the relationships. Jamie, even you and I, that's how we met, right? It's just sort of years and years ago we were sitting on the same committee or on the same board, and over time, then Jamie launched Red Letter Day, and now we have the podcast, and now here we are meeting all of you, and so it is really incredible and critical to have that. We talk about collaborations. We talk about influencers. Even our TikTok workshop earlier, really leaned into the benefit of influencers. As much as we sort of love to hate them, right? At the core, it is collaboration.
So I think it's so interesting because there's a lot of talk about influencers. But there are so many different places. One of the guys that we interviewed in our podcast was a guy named Will Shelton, and he works with the entertainment industry. Tell him what he does.
Yeah, so his take on it is really interesting. So, within each cultural community, there are places that folks gravitate. And he really leaned into barbershops and hair salons for the Black community. And that is where, you're with your friends, you're having your hair done. There's more to that experience than just the beauty part of it, right? And so he partnered with TV shows to have launch parties. He partnered with movies to have premiere showings. And so it was really neat we did that right as the pandemic was starting, because he said, we were like, so what's it going to look like? And he was like, we're talking about this. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 months or next month. But that has been really, really fascinating. And he said, here's this entire network of the hearts of communities. Let's go ahead and partner with them.
So when we talk about influencers, when I say the word influencers, I think about people who are in different outfits every day on my Instagram feed, right? Living some fabulous life that I never am going to be worthy of, if I live to be 150. But the truth of the matter is influencers come in all categories and all professions. And Melinda has some friends that have a company called The Tidy Home.
Yes.
And they have created quite the business. And it was, when we were all stuck at home looking at how bad our paint looked in our bedroom and all those kinds of things, they were actually doing some useful things with people.
Yes, absolutely. So that's EF Ukwe and Megan DeLong, and they are exactly that, the tidy home. So it's a lot of organizing. Jamie mentioned, we all sort of sat there and we're like, when did we acquire all this stuff? When you're leaving for work every day, you don't see it. It's there. You might stress about it over the weekend, but ultimately you're not really looking at it every day. And so they just come in and help you organize, help you scale down if that's what you need to do, but ultimately organize and make this really beautiful space. But they were both impacted by the pandemic tremendously, and they're sisters, and they decided, hey, we've always wanted to work together. Let's do that now. Let's make it happen. And so, they've been doing really well for themselves, I would say.
So does anybody follow Whoa Wait Walmart? Does anybody know? So they're influencers. And what they do is they find bargains at Walmart, and they talk about them online. I'm telling you, it's awesome.
It really is. It's like, whoa, wait, that's Walmart? That's literally what you say. Hold on, that dress is cute.
Oh, this cute dress, and it costs $12.88 at Walmart. But anyway, they posted something from Tidy Home. They got to know each other. And so Tidy Home got this huge new group of followers from them, just from that kind of association. So it's not always about the beauty queens and the new outfits. There's lots of other ways that influencers
Practical
work.
influencers, we'll say.
Yeah. So, the consumer has changed forever, right? And so there's so many things to think about. Convenience is still the key. And, we get mad because the Uber doesn't come like it used to. There's just like all these kinds of things that are revolving around that. And there was some of that talk today on our podcast, and a lot of it was around convenience, but also about making the experience to be the right kind of experience. So
yeah, absolutely. I think you all know, right? You're walking into the supermarket and you see ads for their app, right? Or you have the Click. I'm an Aldi shopper, so I'm learning about the Click Kroger shopping cart thing. But that, it really, now Aldi has that. But to walk in and see, oh, okay, yeah, there it is. They have an app. You can see what the sales are. You can order your order. You can pick it up. They can deliver it to your house. We really have leaned into that convenience. And making things easy, right? We talk about it at Assurian, like, make it easy for me. How can we do that? And some of you may know Assurian acquired You Break, I Fix. And so we have a really very cool direct-to-consumer concept now. But Jamie was telling me, she said, oh, my phone broke, but it's okay. I have an appointment with UBIF. We call it UBIF and Charlie. We have an appointment with UBIF, and she said, I got there. I checked in on the app. They told me to wait. They took on my phone, they fixed it, they brought it back out to me, and there I was. And like, how has that ever been an easy process? Like, never in the history of mobile devices has that been an easy process. And so we recognize, hey, we do, people want to feel safe. They want to have it made easy for them.
So this is something that has really sort of risen to the top because there's a tension right now between there's not enough service workers and, have you seen the stories on TV about people acting out on planes and just the aggression that people are showing today? And what is that all about? So there's a wonderful article in the Atlantic. I would suggest that anybody look it up and read it. But it goes back to saying that department stores were created in a time that it allowed people who were middle class or even lower middle class buy things that they couldn't have bought before. So it gave them some sense of living like an aristocrat during that time. And over the years, what has happened is we have become such excellent consumers that we feel a little entitled. And so then the pandemic comes along, and really the only thing we can do is buy things online. And even after then, we have this aggression that's built up in us, and it's created this really nasty tension that's going on. And so as marketers, we deal with that all the time. People that can't see their grandmother that's in a senior center, somebody who comes into a retail establishment and doesn't understand why something didn't show up because you can't get anything from China or you can't get anything from that, or you go to a restaurant and the restaurant doesn't have servers, or they aren't able to get the salmon that you always order and you're upset about it, And so there's all of this that's going on. And so how do we as marketers deal with that? So I think that we have to look at some ways that we can do that. And one of them is to show empathy. Because you want to know what the problem is, but you also want to communicate with them why there's a problem. So if, for instance, we were ordering tumblers for an event, and they say, we only have a 6-week window to get these tumblers because they're coming from China and they may not make it. And you go, oh no, we can be kind of the ugly American about it. Or you can understand what's really going on in our world. So I think it's a time where we have to over-communicate with people about what's going on. Normally we have 250 people here in this room, but people are a little scared for coming out. So thank you for showing up tonight. And knowing that we've tried to, make sure that there's precautions for everybody to be here so we can be as safe as possible and be together. But we also wanted to provide you with a hybrid way to see the event if you didn't feel comfortable for coming out. So that's giving people options seems to be important, don't you think?
Yeah, and really practicing that empathy. You all remember at the height of COVID where, kids are in the background, dogs are barking, you got to see a peek into your coworkers or your teammates, their personal lives, right? Their homes, their kids. And so look, I think that's maybe we've lost a little bit of that as this has just sort of dragged on and on and on. And now we're sort of like, oh, we're back to normal, but we're not back to normal. So I think we do need to just tap into that empathy a little more. And then as marketers lean in, so as consumers tap into that empathy a little more. And as marketers lean into the communication.
Yeah. And I think we have to look for novel ways. They said after the Black Plague, back in the 1500s, that the Renaissance came after that. So all of the new things that are going to come out of this are going to be healthy. They're going to be good, and but there's got to be some pain to get through this period. So to the extent that we can look for new options of doing things, so that's why we look at things like podcasts, or we look at we have things like the progressive web apps and other things that we talk about. As a marketing company, we tell everyone that we need to take 10% of the budget and do something we've never done before. Not just, flying planes with banners just to be doing it, but to look for things that really fit into our situation and try it and see. It may not work, but it could be the greatest thing that we've ever discovered for that. So if we look at this whole idea of this social isolation, it really gives us some pause as marketers to think about the why ourselves and then try to figure out what comes after that.